So this is a fun interview. Fellow Naval Academy 2002 classmate, F-18
Ought to,
pilot.
sir.
Yeah, buddy. Um, strictly, we're talking about business, but we're also talking about communities and relationships and how we really get to know somebody and trust somebody that we're doing business with. Really good conversation, man. What'd you think?
Yeah, I loved it. Loved talking to Brian. Really appreciate his time and just his knowledge on, like you said, community, the importance of community, and also vetting the people you do business with. Right? It's
Yeah.
not just trying to lock down deals and numbers and money and more and more. It's about who you're doing business with and the intentional efforts behind that. So really enjoyed the conversation and love talking to Brian again.
And from the title, we talk a lot about knowing when to pivot, how to pivot, and doing business right. Go listen.
You're listening to Filling the Storehouse podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Stuart, and we want to walk with you on the journey to living the abundant life through faith, family, and freedom. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours. Together, achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to intentionally fill our storehouse.
Brian, my man, what's up? I'm pumped to have you on here. I saw you at our Naval Academy 2002 reunion a while back, and we got reconnected. For everybody, Brian and I played baseball together for a few years at the Naval Academy, and we've been kind of staying in touch within this real estate world that we kind of play in a little bit. And I'm excited to have a more of a conversation today with you. So welcome, man. Welcome to Filling the Storehouse podcast.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. It's good to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah, I was just commenting. So for most people are just going to be listening to this, but you have a really cool background there on your screen there. I'm gonna have to get me one of those. It's pretty cool.
$10 on Fiverr.
I like it.
Get as many as you want.
I like it. David's gonna be on mute the entire time today because he's just like coughing up lungs. So it's really just gonna be a conversation with you and me today. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to apologize to our listeners early on because of that. It's probably going to be, at least from Stu's perspective, a terrible episode. So, Brian, if you could carry the episode, if you could really interject your personality and insights, would be really good. So, the more you talk, the better.
All right.
Hey, for our listeners, give us a little background. Besides just the Naval Academy 2002 baseball player, who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing now.
Sure. So after the academy, I got to go fly F-18 Hornets. That's why you see the Hornet in the background for the people watching. And then for the past 10 years, I was also a reservist training kids how to fly jets down in Kingsville, Texas, flying T-45s. So lots of time flying and instructing. But when I got out of active duty 10 years ago, I went into real estate full time. And so while I was on active duty, I was actually flipping houses and getting my real estate license on the side, just to, get into it. And then once I left active duty, went into it full time up here in Austin. So been doing it full time, started just like everyone else, watching HGTV and Chip and Joanna and all those people and saying, oh, I can go do that. So started a fix and flip business. The more houses I flipped, the more friends and family wanted to partner with me. And so kind of grew over several years, and then got to a point where I was doing enough fix and flips and doing enough, had enough investors that probably about 5 years ago, I called a timeout and said, hey guys, this is getting a little bit too complicated for QuickBooks to figure out who's tied to what projects and which loans that we're doing. And so we put all the money together. All the investors jumped into a fund. We called it Hornet Capital. My previous company was called Tally 2 Investment Group, which was a terrible name. No one knew what it was, and it was very hard to type into an email. But all the projects, all the loans, all the investors, we all jumped into a fund. It was a good transition. Made it very difficult for a couple of years. We've talked about that here in a little bit, but basically started the fund Hornet Capital and been doing that for 5 years and just continuing to increase, what we're doing here in Texas, Central Texas.
Hey, Brian, if you could add a little little specifics for me. So when did you start? I guess, why did you start flipping? Did you have a mentor or something? Was it, at what point in your career? I'm assuming it was kind of a side gig when you started. If you could just give us some of those details, because I think a lot of our listeners, I love encouraging them to take action, right? Don't just wait till the perfect time. There's no perfect time to get married, no perfect time to have kids. There's no perfect time to start flipping, getting into real estate either. I think you just jump in and you do it, obviously smartly. So I'm just curious when you started that, and where was it specifically in the country? Were you co-located with your flips, or were you doing it at a distance? If you could just give us some of those details, it'd be great.
Yeah, so to rewind just a little bit, when I first left the academy, I had a mentor pull me aside, and he basically said, "Hey, the Navy's not going to make you rich. But if every time you move, if you buy a house, the Navy's going to move you 10 times, 12 times. And then when you leave, you rent that house out. You build up your portfolio of homes wherever they move you. And then when you retire from the Navy, you'll get your nice retirement check, but you'll also be able to sell all those houses and buy your dream house with cash. And that's, how you can become wealthy." I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea." So very first duty station down in Pensacola, Florida, learning to fly, I bought my first house. And so I bought several rentals along the way. One of the happiest days of my life is when I sold all those rentals, but that's how I got into real estate, was kind of just listening to that mentor. And like you said, jumping in. Like, none of my friends in flight school were buying houses, but I did. And I learned a lot just doing that process. How I started fixing fix and flips was on my first shore duty. I was in Kingsville, Texas, teaching students how to fly. And my dad was a carpenter. So I grew up, knowing how to put a tool belt on and how to do the basics. But honestly, when I bought my first house to flip, I partnered with, I partnered with my parents, and I partnered with, who else? I partnered with someone else. So there's three of us together. They put the money in, and I said, "Hey, I'll go do the fix and flip." And it was a super small house. I think we bought it for like 20 grand. And I ended up putting 20 grand worth of work into it, plus all the sweat equity. And I was just doing it on the evenings and weekends when I wasn't flying. And to be honest, I probably knew how to do about 20 to 30% of it, but the rest of it, I just YouTubed. And I YouTubed my way through that first fix and flip. And we ended up selling for 100 grand. So we probably made, 50, 60 grand off it, split that up. So I made an extra 20 grand as a, lieutenant in the Navy, which to me was pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. For my first one. And so I did a couple there, just basically the same numbers. And, once you start doing a couple of those, you're making as much money doing fix and flips on the side as you are, being an officer in the Navy.
That's awesome, man.
Plane, so.
Yeah. Hey, and sorry, one last question for clarification. Who was that mentor? Was it somebody that you sought out? Was it somebody that just poured into you? Who was that guy?
I call him a mentor, but it was just someone that gave me advice before I left. And I don't even know who it was. I don't remember if it was
that's awesome, man.
An instructor or I can't even remember. I just remember hearing the advice right when I was leaving. And so it changed my life.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, that alone, I my hope is that someone young in their military career hears this and does the same thing, right? Like, oh wait, I can build wealth while still being in the Navy and buy houses and do these little side hustles along the way. And I'm curious, your transition from fixing and flipping, doing private lenders on every single deal, managing all those deals, doing multiple ones at a time. And that's a lot of work. David and I found that out kind of the hard way as well. We were, building out this real estate turnkey company. We were flipping, 25 to 50 houses a year, all individual private lenders. And man, it was a lot. It was a lot of work, and we still had our full-time Navy jobs. And so we found ourselves building out another job for ourselves. And I'm curious how any mistakes along the way, lessons learned, things that happened to you that really caused you to change your model? Was it just like, I don't want to have this full-time job, I want to be kind of more of a passive private lender? Like what was it for you that kind of changed your business model?
So the easy way is to say failure. Every time you fail, you get so much stronger. When everyone tells me that they're in real estate, I ask them, what's the biggest deal that they've lost on? And if they told me they haven't lost on anything yet, I tell them they're not a real estate investor yet.
Yeah,
so,
that's so true.
You really have to lose, take your first hits and be able to recover from it before I say that you're a real estate investor. And I guess to answer your question, so yeah, I pivoted so much. So, I told you I started, being a landlord and buying houses and renting them out. And then, I moved into fix and flips and started doing fix and flips. And to hear you guys say that you're doing 40 or 50 a year is incredible to me, because when I moved here to Austin, I was doing fix and flips full time. I couldn't do more than 7 or 8 at a time. That was like my top. And just like you said, I wasn't building a business. I was just building a job.
Yeah.
And I was gone from my family all the time. And it was just tough. It really took me, doing that for 2 to 3 years and realizing that I wasn't building a business. It wasn't getting any bigger. I was just, churning and churning and churning. And I basically stepped back. I called my partner at the time and said, hey man, this is getting overwhelming for me. I can't figure out how to build this business. I can't figure out how to put processes in place or replicate stuff or hire people under me. And so I basically pulled back a little bit. We were doing houses where we might make 20 to 30 grand, and we were doing houses that we were making over 100 grand on. And here in Austin, they're much bigger numbers. My first flip I bought the house for 20 grand. Here in Austin, you can't buy anything for, less than 300, 400, 500 grand. And so you're using much bigger numbers. And so I told them, I said, I know when these $100,000 deals come across my desk, let's just focus on those and not worry about these $20,000, $30,000 ones now that I'm doing this full time. They were great as a part-time side gig, but now that I'm full time, I need to feed my family. I need to try to build a business. It wasn't worth 6 to 9 months of my life for 20, 30 grand. And so when I did that, I pulled back. What I found out was we had a bunch more money in the bank account. And all the people that I networked with, they started asking to just borrow money. Hey man, can I borrow 20 grand to finish this project? And I go look at it, they're like, oh yeah. And so, we started lending money. And what I realized was on the lending side, that was much more scalable. I wasn't making nearly the same amount of money, but it was something that I could replicate. I could put processes in place. I could build out everything that I was doing. And that's when, I was able to start building a business, because I could start replicating things. I could start handing certain tasks off to virtual assistants. I could, start to hire my first employees. And that's really where things started to change for me, was when I could build a repeatable, scalable business plan.
Yeah, that's awesome, Brian. And I'm curious on this whole idea of pivoting. I think a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs like ourselves, we don't pivot soon enough. We try to have that. We have this beautiful little baby, and it's our baby, and we built it, and it's gonna be great. And unfortunately, the baby's uglier than we think, right? And so I'm curious, what, and Stu and I went through this, and I thank God we pivoted. I wish we would have pivoted like a year earlier. I think things would be so vastly different right now if we had pivoted a year earlier, but we didn't. But I thank God that we did pivot, albeit a year too late, which was about a year and a half ago. And I'm just curious, like, how do you know when to pivot? And even now, as we're building another business out, we want to have our eyes wide open to see the signs of when you should pivot, when you take advantage of opportunities. So I'm just kind of curious how that worked for you.
So I want to make a very clear distinction, because I think this is actually where a lot of people screw up, is pivoting versus going after shiny objects. And so what I'll
Big
tell
time,
you
dude.
is, as I continue to, grow my company, there's all kinds of shiny objects that come across my desk, and they look beautiful, but they're not part of my core business plan. And it's so hard to say no to those things because it distracts you from your main business. So what I would say is, focus on your main business. Really know what it is, and try to say no to everything else until you build that pipeline. As you build that pipeline of your business, whatever it is, I would focus first on revenue, and then second on saving money and liability. And so that's usually backwards. I think most people, they're more worried about creating an LLC. They're more worried about how to save money on taxes by, moving 401k money off to the side. They're not worried about the top line and being able to generate more and more revenue. So I think that's in it. And I think that is because there's more salesmen out there that can easily sell you hey, come listen to how to create an LLC video or whatnot. So I think people focus on the liability and saving money issues first before they focus on revenue. I think people accidentally go after shiny objects, which this detracts them from building their core business. And then once you are in your core business, what you're going to find is, if you are truly focusing all your time on that, you're going to be able to tell if that is snowballing and getting bigger and bigger, or if you're just pushing the same rock over and over again. And so that's really where I can tell when I needed to pivot was, I've been pushing this rock and it's not snowballing, right? It's just the same size. It still weighs the same. We're with Hornet Capital right now. It's someone explained to me like a flywheel, right? So it's really hard to get going, but once you get it going, it gets easier and easier to spin that wheel. Or if you put the same effort into it, the wheel spins exponentially faster. So that's what I would say is, if you're focusing on your core business and nothing's changing, you're just doing the same amount of work and the same amount of throughput, it's probably time to pivot.
That's good, man. We actually, the guests we had on our podcast, Joe Turney, he is out this week when we're recording it on Monday, November 29th. He talked about, in his business, he just learned how to make $500 a month. And then he just did that same thing over and over and over again. And, get rid of all those shiny objects, just like you said, say no to everything else, and just do the same thing over and over again to grow that thing. And then, look at your business every year. And if it's not growing monetarily, then maybe it's time to think about what you're doing and rethink. And like you said, make a pivot. So that's good, man. I want to talk about, the community that you're involved with, partnerships, vetting those partners, and how you're looking at, looking at deals. You're a part of helping underwrite deals with the Academy Fund. You're involved with the Service Academy Business Mastermind, lots of military veteran presence, Service Academy specifically. Why those type of people? Why are you picking those type of partners and that type of community? I'm just kind of curious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I think it's part of networking. So when you start to network, one of the challenges I always had was, I always felt like I'm going to go do this by myself, right? I'm going to go grab that flag and be the first one out in the field and have no one with me. And that's really what delayed me growing initially, was not partnering with the right mentors and not finding good partners and basically saying I can do this all on my own. And so I'd say that probably was, you say that you're probably a year or two late from pivoting your business. man, I was probably 4 or 5 years of, holding that guide on by myself instead of partnering with the right people. And when you're in a room and you're networking, it's pretty easy to tell who the ones in that room know what they're doing and have business. And instead of talking to the guy next to you that he's starting his own fix and flip business and maybe you guys can start together, I'd say go talk to the guy that's already been doing it for 10 years and has, flipped 100 houses, and figure out how you can help him, how you can tie into his network. Because you're going to learn a lot more from that guy than, he's already tripped over all the rocks in the middle of the street, right? So don't go down that path with someone new. Go find someone that's already knows how to navigate the waters, and partner with them. And it's going to be tough because that guy doesn't need your help. So you have to find some way to make it beneficial to him to bring you under his wing, right? And asking him for a cup of coffee is probably not the right thing, because he gets asked for a cup of coffee all the time.
Yeah. Can I pick your brain?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
And so, Brian, just curious, what are some ways, like for you, for example, if I want to, pick your brain, right? Get some of your time. Like, what would be enticing to you, or what would make you want to help somebody? Very practically speaking.
That's a good question. Well, I'd say that the big transition for me was initially when I was first starting off, I was doing all the driving, all the buying, all this, right? So I go buy the cups of coffee, I go drive to their place or where I could meet them. And eventually, as I started to improve my business, what I noticed was we started to meet in the middle somewhere. And now that things have been going well for me, I find that people are always driving to my house and buying me cups of coffee or whatever. And now it's the point that I really don't even have time for a cup of coffee because I'm too busy doing a podcast for Stu and David. But
That's right.
But what I would say is, if you can find some way to get onto my schedule where it's adding value. And so I don't know, maybe if you invite me to go play 9 holes of golf or something, and I'm just making stuff up, but something that's going to get me out of my day-to-day routine of, Calendly meetings after Calendly meetings and meetings with my employees. I don't know. I don't know how to answer your question.
Well, and I think that's great, right? Like, I think that the golf idea, I mean, I think being creative, because there's so many people saying, hey, dude, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Everybody knows that's code for, can I have, 45 minutes of your time? And I would even say, start a podcast, right? If you're someone who wants to seek to get people on and to pick their brains and to get knowledge, a good way to add value is something like a podcast. Be creative and jump on. Hey, I run a podcast that's very specific about talking to fund managers. There's a lot of those guys out there, right? There's a lot of people doing some similar thing. And then, hey, I want to add value to you by having you on the show. I want to, push your product and bring awareness to Hornet Capital. But I also, but I'm also getting something awesome out of it, right? I'm able to ask you questions that are on the tip of my mind and potentially move forward. Or as you find out that the guy loves golf. I mean, hey, be creative. Go buy a round of golf. Be like, hey, I checked with your personal assistant. They said you had some white space on Friday. I'd love to take you for a round of golf. I mean, it's creative, it's intriguing, and so I love that. The idea, because I was just thinking about it this morning in the fields that we're in, with the mastermind and trying to and with authors and how do you get in that room, right? How do you not because you want to always receive, but what can you offer? So I love that you highlighted that, right? And it is tough. And it's tough but that's part of the hard work, is to be intriguing enough to make someone like Brian Whitten be like, yeah, I'll jump, I'll hang out. I'll give you some access to this years and years of work that I put in. So I love it, man. It was a great answer.
I have two more things to add after you're talking. So I've seen two very creative things that I think have worked for me. One, someone said, "Hey, the next time you have any meetings downtown or anything, I want to come pick you up and basically be your chauffeur." He just wanted to drive me, and that way he knew that he had me for 20 to 30 minutes going to and from the thing. So I thought that was very creative, and I actually took him up on it. Because it allows me to kind of work instead of having to drive. The second thing is, and I've actually used this, and it's very powerful in my own business, is personalized video messages. And so we all have the ability to record via, YouTube or Vimeo or Zoom or whatever it is. But the first time I ever saw this was this guy was asking me for a loan. And it was about a 30-minute drive. And I was like, man, I'm slammed over the next couple of days. I know you really need this. I'm going to do my best to get out there. 45 minutes later, I had an email from him, and it was basically him on his cell phone and saying, "Hey, Brian, I know you're not going to be able to make it out here in time to close this loan, but I want to tell you about it." And he walked through the whole property and basically had a video, talked to everything about it. And that saved me from having to drive 30 minutes out there. I could make not an immediate decision, but I knew I was much closer to making a decision if I wanted to do that loan, because he got into my inbox with a personalized video. And it wasn't a video that he could send out to 15 other investors. He was talking to me the whole time. And it was very powerful. And like I said, I use it all the time in my business now, where if I need to talk to someone, I just send them a video. I record it and I walk them through whatever we're doing, and it's very personalized. I'm talking to them, and it's so that they know it's just not some marketing thing that I'm pushing out to everyone. It's very, very powerful.
Is it just your cell phone with the camera app, or are you using some specific tool to do that?
So for me, it's usually, it's either Zoom or we have, I think it's Vimeo, because we use Asana a lot for our processes and stuff. And there's a little thing that you can, start a video from Vimeo. So a lot of times I'm just turn my camera on, I'm recording my screen, I'm off in the corner, and, I'm talking to an investor about what we do and kind of walking through our portfolio or whatever. And I try to keep it short, between, 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops. And when I send them that link, I say, "Hey, here's a video I just recorded, things about our company. It's only 3 minutes long. Let me know if you have any questions after this," or something like that. And it's very, very powerful. You'll get a very high response rate because they can watch that video when they have time. And so they'll get back to you usually.
That's good, man. I like that. So in the investor world, people, talk a lot about this know, like, and trust triangle. And you have a lot of deals come across your table, and you're looking at all these deals, and you're doing due diligence on the deal itself. But talk to me about, how you, one, earn trust with somebody, with an investor, and two, do your own due diligence on an investor that you're going to invest with, or you're going to, lend to. What's that process look like? Are there certain people that you are going to lend to over another? Do you only lend to people that you've known for a long time? Like, how do you kind of go through that?
So Bill Militello runs the Academy Fund, and he has a saying that he always says that money moves at the speed of trust. And so it's really you trusting in the deal or the person that makes you be able to lend to it or partner with it or whatever. And I love that because it actually opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. So Hornet Capital, my fund here in Austin, we lend to everyone that's local. But the Academy Fund, they typically focus on lending to military veterans. And what I can tell you is we underwrite both of them. So we underwrite the Academy Fund, but we also underwrite Hornet Capital. And it's a whole nother level when you are dealing with a military veteran than when you're just dealing with someone local. It's everyone from my underwriting team to my construction team. Everyone's like, man, these guys, they're so easy to work with. Like they're very communicative. They respond fast. They get me whatever I need. They'll send me stuff before I ask for it. They're just prepared. And so for us to be able to underwrite deals for the Academy Fund is much easier because of the quality of the people that we are lending to. And we also know that, hey, when that person does take a hit, we know that a military veteran's probably more than likely going to make it right, even if it means that they're going to take a loss. Where probably some of the people that we're lending to in Hornet Capital, they're just going to walk away from that thing and let's take back that asset. So I think the quality of people that you deal with and the networks that you put yourself in is going to drive how successful you are. I mean, the Academy Fund, right now, because of the type of people they lend to, they have a 0% foreclosure rate.
Yeah,
that's impressive for a hard money lender to have 0% foreclosure rate, but it's because of the quality of people they're lending to.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I love that, dude. And I think there's, we've had Bill Militello on the podcast before, and he's said some things that were life-changing for us. Awesome human being. But one thing that I really love, and I think is critical that a lot of times we forget about is that avatar, creating that avatar of who you want to do business with, right? And asking the hard questions like, well, why would I want to do business with this? Not just putting it out there and trying to be more, or the most I can, I just want to make money, right? I just want to, the more deals I get, the more money I make, right? It's not that, it's, hey, would I want to have beer with this individual? Do I respect their values? Do I know their values? And that was one of the things that really set aside that conversation with Bill and with you, as you guys were focused on this Academy Fund and who you're doing business with. I think it's so critical. And you just gave a data point, right? 0 foreclosures. Like that says so much about, in this business, says so much about that. And it's all about the person that you're doing business with. It has nothing to do with the fact that military guys and gals just happen to find the best deals, right? That's Stu and I can attest that that is not the truth, but it's what you do about it. When you find that pig, what are you going to do about it? And so I love that you highlighted that and gave that data point, because it's, I don't think we spend enough time, one, in vetting our partners, but I also don't think we spend enough time in vetting the people that we're doing business with, that not necessarily our partners, but the people that we're serving or doing business with. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we all just watched Top Gun Maverick, and they talk about the man in the box, right? The man in the box is sometimes more important than the vehicle we're in. So,
you talk a lot. You talked about how you tried to do this real estate business all by yourself for 4 to 5 years, and then you finally realized that it takes a team and it takes a network. What's your recommendations to people that are just getting started, either just in business in general, real estate, or just life? What should people be doing to get in with a network, with a community, and how does that truly help them and make them better? Like what lessons did you learn from finally realizing that, man, I can't be doing all this on my own?
Yeah. So I think one thing that I did was, of course, everyone, the first thing they need to be doing is as much education, whatever they want. So whether that's reading books, YouTube, listening to podcasts, whatever it is, just start to get that basic understanding. And that's kind of level one, just so that you know the lingo, you know what people are talking about, and you feel very comfortable with it to start with. After that, you have to get hands-on experience. And so this is whether or not you go jump into it yourself, or you go partner with someone that's already doing it, or you go work for someone that's doing it. Man, I would love, before I started my own hard money lending company, I would have loved just to go work for another hard money lender for 3 months, because I would have learned so much off those 3 months before I broke off and did my own thing. So even, it's just that hands-on experience. It goes, it's exponential above the YouTube videos and the books. Is just get hands-on, see what people are really saying when they're not, be in front of a camera.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Where did you find, where were you diving into networks? Were you going to real estate investor meetings? Were you joining, RIAs? Were you joining masterminds? Were you connecting with, military veterans on LinkedIn? Like, what was kind of your action items for getting connected with good people in the network?
Yeah, it was definitely the local networks that I was jumping into. And this was before COVID and everything. So I feel like more virtual, there's a lot more virtual opportunities too. So you can get, go test out 10 of them and find the 2 that are providing value and be able to double down on those. But yeah, there's also something to be said about face to face. You're gonna learn a lot going to those networking events. And I had a thought. What was I going with that? What's interesting for me is those initial events. Those were very specific for me, for real estate. So I was going to real estate events. I was learning as much as I could. But to be honest, where I've learned the most is from, luckily I'm a veteran, and the SABM group or the 10X Vets groups, I've been able to join those guys. And the interesting thing for me is those have probably propelled my business more than any of the others. And it's because I'm not being pitched anything in those groups. It's not like a real estate group where I know that the hard money lender is sponsoring the event, and I know that the wholesalers are sponsoring the event because they're trying to sell me wholesales. But in these other groups where it's just kind of a community of people that are business mentors. And so we're all talking about how how we're running our businesses, the different challenges we're facing. And what you realize is we all face the same challenges, just in different industries. And to be able to pull, I call them like little gold nuggets, like, man, that guy just said something. It's brilliant for what he's doing with his company. I can, change that to my real estate company over here. So being in those groups where it's not driven by people trying to sell to me, but being driven by people trying to, help each other.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree with that, man. I actually posted something on the social media a while back. It was just basically like a questionnaire. Like, if you had, say, $5,000, like, where would you invest that? Would you invest that into education, into some type of cash flowing deal, or would you invest that into networks and relationships? Going through all of those and have invested into all of those, I would personally say, now, having learned all of this and going through it, I would invest in relationships and networks personally, because once you've invested into relationships and networks, that will get you the education. And that would probably get you the cash flowing deal eventually too, once you have that network and the relationship. So I don't know, just a thought there. And David, sorry to cut you off. I know you had something to say.
No, that was good, man. I couldn't agree more. I think the community aspect of growth is jet fuel, no matter what the industry, no matter what you're trying to achieve. I think you get around like-minded individuals, it's going to feed you exponentially. And you can also have a venue to add value, right? That you have a place that you can also, you don't know how many times people are like, oh, dang, Brian just said this thing. That's my golden nugget to build my business. And so I think that exchange is the best investment. Brian, I'm just curious, the economy, and there's all this doom and gloom on the horizon, and everybody's so negative. I imagine you guys are just shutting it up and, locking it down and just going to stop doing business. Is that where you're at?
Now you got to pivot. Well, My fund, it's interesting because, for anyone that's interested in starting their own fund, I'll give you kind of my 2 cents about it. When I first started investing, it was very easy for me to find people that wanted to partner with me, especially after I had a track record. Because I said, hey, we are going to go invest in, 123 Sesame Street. They love addresses. They love to look at something that they're going to invest in. They know what they're investing in. It's a known quantity. The challenge is when you move into a fund, people don't know exactly what they're investing in. You're just saying, hey, here's a portfolio of things, plus we're going to buy some more stuff here in the future. And so it's very difficult to get people to get on board with that because they don't know exactly what they're investing in. So at that point, you need a track record. So I went from not very easy, but I was able to raise money on deal by deal situations very comfortably, kind of probably how you guys would did, every private money lender for every deal. When I started the fund model, I was able to convince everyone to come over, but at that point, it was very difficult to start raising money because they didn't know what I was investing in. They didn't know, what my strategy was. They didn't know me personally. Until I got a track record of 3 or 4 years. And now they're looking at the track record and they're like, okay, obviously this guy knows what he's doing. And that's really when my company, started to pivot. So when I moved into a fund, it became more difficult to find investors until I had a track record. And then it became easier to find investors and the ability for me to pivot during different times. Right. So yes, we do a lot of hard money lending, but when COVID first shut down the economy for 2 to 3 weeks, my investors were nervous about lending. They said, hey, we want to save all our money to find distressed deals. I said, perfect. That's what I used to do. So I went and found some distressed deals and we made $1 million in a couple, while the economy was shut down. And that really gave a lot of insight to my investors that, hey, I'm not locked into one strategy, that I can pivot based off the economy. So with what's going on right now, my investors are looking to me and they're saying, hey, how are you going to handle this? Because right now, all our borrowers are afraid to go find deals because they don't know where real estate values are going to be 6 months from now. Now I have my own opinion and I'm taking aggressive action on it. I think the economy will probably stabilize in the spring. And if it goes, fluctuates, 5%, I'm calling that stabilizing. But I think once it stabilizes, I think everyone's going to get back into the fold. And so actually, I think right now is buying season. And we just put a bunch of houses under contract because I have no competition right now. No one else is buying right now. So I told my investors, I'm going to go buy a bunch of properties between now and New Year's. The values may not go up, but I know that I'm going to have a lot less competition because once the spring hits, I think the Fed slows down their interest rate hikes and the stock market starts going back up again. People start getting more comfortable about buying houses. I think the competition comes back in. So foreign capital, we're buying right now. In fact, we just put 2 under contract yesterday. So
it's good,
awesome,
man.
Dude.
Yeah.
So be able to pivot.
I like it. No, it's great, man. It's probably going to be the title of our show. Knowing when to pivot. It's good. Well, cool, dude. Hey, this has been a fun conversation, man. It's good to see you again. I definitely learned something today. I know our listeners will as well. What's the best place for our listeners to get in touch with you and to pick your brain and have a coffee with you?
Our website's hornet.capital. And so you can go there. There's a phone number there. There's email links to get in touch with us. It's not a very good website. We'll be changing it soon, but that's probably the best place to get in contact.
Cool, man. We'll put that in the show notes. Hey, dude, this was fun, guys and gals. Hey, Brian is a wealth of knowledge. He's been doing real estate lending, all assets for quite a long time, and so reach out to him. Look at maybe join in his fund, and connect with him, and share this podcast episode, share Hornet Capital. And Dave, you got anything else, or are you just going to be coughing the rest of the time we're talking?
Yeah, man, I've been on mute quite a bit, so I appreciate your patience, Brian. No, thank you so much, man. I also have taken a bunch of notes, and I just really appreciate, the fact that you're so willing to drop your own gold nuggets for other people to pick up and learn from and take action on. So really appreciate it. Good to see you again, buddy. Awesome to see 2002 grads kicking butt.
That's right, man.
Ought to, baby.
Yeah.
No, but thanks for your time, brother. It was good to see you.
Awesome. Yeah. And anyone listening, feel free to reach out. I love to give back. I love to give mentorship, and I'll let you bend my ear for 30 minutes if you get on my calendar.
And you like to play golf, right?
Yeah. Well, I love to play golf. I never get to.
Yeah. There it is, guys and gals. If you want to pick Brian's ear, come to Austin and buy him a round of golf. So, all right, guys.
Pick his ear.
Pick his ear.
Yeah.
Pick his ear.
Pick his ear. All right.
Hey, go fill the storehouse.
Yeah. Thanks, friends. Make it a great day.
See ya.
And just to remind you, ought to, sir. Love that interview with Brian, class of 2002 Naval Academy. Just really insightful, man. I love, even the practical tips on how to get in front of somebody to add value to them. These little nuggets of creativity, and when you really want to pursue something, get ahead, join a community, all these different things. There's practical actions, but that's the key. There's actions that you must take, and whether that includes pivoting, whether that's dealing with getting in somebody's, as you said, picking their ear.
Picking their ear.
Picking their ear. All these things require a level of effort and intentionality, and just really enjoyed this interview with Brian.
Yeah. And for the real estate investors that are listening, hey, Brian's buying. So, think about that a little bit. Good stuff. Go listen, share this episode, and understand when you should be pivoting, understand, the network that you're engaged with. It's all really, really important stuff. So hope you enjoyed it. Connect with Brian, connect with us, and go fill the storehouse. See you.
Ought to, sir. Ought to.
Thanks for listening to Filling the Storehouse. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe and share it with someone you love. And if you really felt inspired, leave a 5-star review so we could continue to grow and help other Christian entrepreneurs fill their storehouse. If you're interested in creating financial freedom through real estate investing, be sure to check out our website at storehouse310turnkey.com. We'd love to serve you through our platform of building the kingdom. Just click on the contact link and we'll reply to you as soon as we can. Again, thanks so much for listening. Now go fill your storehouse and make it a great day.